Catus Maximus here, this time with the Icon Compact Micrometer Adjustable Torque Wrench. And this is one of those in really nice packaging. Actually, I was holding off on this, and then I saw some reviews, looked at a couple YouTube reviews, and this thing looks just like those Snap-on, the little TQR. Snap-on was famous for having these tiny little torque wrenches, and that's what this is a 3/8 inch anvil, but at least on the Snap-ons, I used to have one a long time ago before I sold it, they had 1/4 inch anvils as well, so pretty heavy duty packaging with really thick cardboard on each side. That's actually pretty surprising here. We have a metal latch on the box here. And of course we do have a destruction manual and a calibration certificate, which they're always talking about how good those that they always come with certificates. So I think it's just a little bit interesting. I guess we should take a quick look at what its measurements are. They do put the ambient temperature at 68 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's within the 4% and 6%. So these types of click type torque wrenches do work in both directions, unlike split beams or many other types, and are more accurate in the forward direction than they are in the reverse direction. So I had already taken a quick look at this. This thing is pretty nice. I do like that it's roll stamped. I have a CDI with laser etching, and it's just harder to read laser etching than it is roll stamping. Although this roll stamping is so small, it's even a little bit hard to read, but it's still real defined. And of course, Newton meters on the back. The obligatory little O-ring just to prevent a bunch of particles from getting down in there. And what I mean by the Snap-on is the Snap-on had an aluminum handle, and this one's aluminum as well. This really looks just like it. And only being, so you would use this with bicycles and motorcycles and all sorts of low torque values. It's just nice to have a micrometer one that's really just a small compact package, and I really like that a lot. They do advertise a 90 tooth, and I was noticing one thing here is that this switch seems really familiar. It looks a whole lot like these old Duralast switches. I think that's a little bit interesting, but I'll open up the head here and we'll take a look. Now I do have the other Icon 1/4 inch drive ratchets here, but it's already looking like it's pretty obvious that this anvil won't fit in this head. I think they're about the same height, but the anvil design is quite a bit different, and especially from this one. And neither of the bottom plates are interchangeable, so that just does not bode well with being able to upgrade this to 1/4 inch. We'll open up and take a look. So of course 40 inch-pounds to 200 inch-pounds is not very much. It's from about 3.5 foot-pounds to 16.5 foot-pounds. So light, as a matter of fact, that you can click it in the low setting just with your hands. So I like this. I like that it has a rubberized end, or yeah, it's a soft plastic end. Adjusting it is of course very smooth. Really like that. Really solid detents there. Not a bad little unit. And so that was just my take. I always really wanted to get one of these little low-value torque wrenches again, and it looks like Harbor Freight Icon really kind of stepped up. I'm surprised they got this thing, but it is, you know, if it didn't have Icon laser etched on there, and it actually, I wouldn't be surprised if CDI Precision Instruments was making these, because it looks a lot like them, and all their torque wrenches, or a lot of them, are made overseas. So this is Taiwanese made, but gosh, other than if it's not that, then it, you know, it is a real intentional like Snap-on knockoff. Although the Snap-on one, they did squeeze the tube so it was a little bit wider at the top, where this one's totally round. Otherwise, this thing just, it looks pretty good. Let's take a look at the although I did want to mention this case. I'm not super fond of cases that have windows, because it seems eventually the window always gets foggy, and two, although this one has quite a bit of retention, they always seem to want to fall out. The other thing is the knurling's pretty good on this aluminum, but the way that it's retained in this box here, what's going to end up happening is the aluminum handles are actually going to end up grinding away. We can also see that this box was made for what appears to be a digital torque meter as well, which is a little bit interesting. Which means some hunting around, we may be able to find out who made this. So let's take a quick look at the ratchet mechanism. All right, real quick, I went and opened up the flex head because it seemed that the Icon straight head had a totally different anvil. But unfortunately, well, maybe I should say fortunately, the design of the torque wrench is not only different from the Icon Flex head, it's obviously much better. Just to give you a quick idea here, look at the size. This is the Icon Flex head on the left, and obviously the torque wrench. The pawl on the torque wrench is huge. It's almost like the Icon straight handles is a really surprisingly good ratchet mechanism for a little 16-pound torque wrench. The one thing I'll say about this is I didn't like what they've done with the little Phillips head screws. If we can get there you go. You can see how the little corners are mushed. That was from the one time it was assembled at the factory, so they should have done a little bit better screws. But I do like a lot of the other aspects of this. If we can see inside there that there is just a huge pawl. That thing is massive. And we can see that there's an O-ring around the outside lip, and I believe there's one on the anvil. Okay, one more time here. So it's interesting, as I've talked about the Icon Flex head and how I didn't like it because with the reversing mechanism, it actually relies on that little pin that drives the pawl, which is indeed steel in this wrench. Come on now, just a tiny little steel pin, but they actually use the side of the pin to prevent the reverse lever from flipping around too far. And what's interesting on this one is that they've inserted a little piece of metal down there in the bottom that both keeps the switch retained as well as acts as a stop, so it's not putting pressure on that little the pawl springs, which is really good. The other thing I'm noticing is that the detent for the reverse switch is actually a little ball bearing in here that is independent of the actual spring that's operating the pawl. So this is actually a surprisingly good little ratchet mechanism. And yes, indeed, there is a little O-ring on, come on now. You can just see that little O-ring on a little groove on the anvil. So although there isn't an O-ring on the switch, it's still pretty tight fit, but I put it up to the light and I could see a little bit of light past it, so I know there's no O-ring. But yeah, this anvil is obviously just much, much better. The teeth are super fine. You can see that. This is why, you know, a lot of these high tooth count ratchets, when they use really big pawls with a lot of surface area, work pretty good. But the reason I've never liked them is because you can see the teeth. They're extremely shallow, which means that it only takes a very small particle to get a pawl to not want to engage properly and then have them start skipping. That's why I like coarse tooth ratchets, because coarse tooth ratchets very rarely skip on you. And it's probably one of the reasons why this is so well sealed, is just to try to make sure that it being a more expensive tool, in this case $80 with a coupon, actually stays working for a long time. All right, here's a whole heck of a lot of zoom, but I flipped the pawl over and it actually says 1/4 inch. I looked at it under Microsoft, 1/4 inch MW90T. So this was part of what was originally a 1/4 inch drive ratchet, and then they put a 3/8, just a custom 3/8 anvil in there. So anyway, I like this little guy as a what looks like to be a shameless copy or near copy of the Snap-on. It's actually built pretty well. That ratchet head was a lot better than I expected. Although I will say that the reverse lever is a bit stiff, just a little bit stiff. It seems after you put a little bit of pressure on it, it doesn't totally jam, but it definitely gets just a little bit tough to, just a little bit stiff. But besides that, it's a nice ratchet mechanism. Surprised about the O-ring sealing in there, so I do like that. Overall, for $80, this is actually a really cool little torque wrench, and this is exactly something where, like, people who are bicycle aficionados, especially people who are into like high-end mountain bikes and particularly road bikes with all the carbon fiber, torque is critical on so much of those carbon fiber road bikes, that this is going to be in that range value from 40 to 200 inch-pounds. Really a pretty big deal. And it's going to be a little more convenient than what I've been using, is this 1/4 inch Industrial, which goes from 0 to 120 inch-pounds. What's nice about these deflecting beam ones is reading very low values. I can go, the first tick mark's only 5 inch-pounds, which is a pretty low amount of torque here. So what I'm going to do here is actually attempt to torque a torque wrench with another torque wrench here. And I've got this right now set at 40 inch-pounds, so I'm just going to see see how well I can really do this. Wow, that's actually pretty good. Go right up to, you can't see it too well, maybe if I get a little bit closer. right there, right where it hits 40. And let's just do one more little test. We'll go ahead and do it up to, we'll do it up to 60 just so I can maintain a little better control. The problem with the roll stamping on this one is it's actually a little bit too deep, so you get a whole bunch of reflections, and man, that can actually make it kind of hard to read. There we go. We'll try this one more time here, and we're at 60 inch-pounds. Get that a little closer. 60 inch-pounds is actually, feels like, even though it's only a 50% increase, feels like it's twice as hard. Humans don't have the best ability to actually judge torque. That's why torque wrenches are so important. Yeah, I'm going to say this is at least definitely no joke about its accuracy. So sorry for the long video, but I've always been fascinated by these things and these little torque wrenches, and it's actually pretty cool that you can get one from Harbor Freight, and you know they're advertising the lifetime warranty, so that won't be for calibration, but it will be if there's any real mechanical failures. And of course, with any micrometer torque wrench, for all the convenience they provide, there is care, which means that you don't unscrew the handle below the minimum reading more than one turn, otherwise certain pieces could potentially become unseated inside. That's why you don't unscrew them too far, and ultimately you just unscrew the handle all the way off. And that you don't leave them at some kind of setting, because this is of course just compressing a spring. That's what increases the torque value. So if you leave this turned up and then store it, you'll have that spring under additional compression, and the steel could settle some. And when that happens, it means that its torque reading will be artificially low. So you want to, and it's not the end of the world if you don't have to, if you're torquing lug nuts, you don't have to turn it down each lug nut. But it's the kind of thing where once you have it torqued up, you kind of generally want to, do your operations. And if it's going to be put away for more than, a day, then go ahead and turn it down. And of course, it does have a nice little case here. So anyway, that was my review of this neat little torque wrench, and with the Harbor Freight coupon database website, that's actually pretty cool. So for 80 bucks, you're going to be hard pressed to find one of these particular style of ratchets or torque wrenches. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody watching and subscribing, and if you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.